Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me for this tasting of Rabbit Hole's core whiskey products. You're in for a treat today because we're going to get a chance to taste every whiskey that we have currently on the market. I'm going to start with Cave Hill. Cave Hill was the first recipe that I laid down, and having started as a Scotch guy, I wanted to make a recipe. I wanted to come up with a whiskey that actually has a different secondary flavoring grain that typically you see on the market. So for this whiskey, we have 70% corn, 10% malted wheat, 10% malted barley, and 10% honey malted barley. What that means is that this is not only a 4-grain bourbon that makes it distinct on its own, number one. Number two is that barley is the secondary flavoring grain. So why don't we go ahead and give it a whiff? But for me, this is a subtle whiskey that brings out a lot of sweet caramel and honey notes. And when you taste it, particularly at 95 proof, which is relatively speaking on the higher end of it, brings those sweeter notes. This is a really exceptional balanced whiskey between those barley notes and the honey notes that you see from the malted barley, as well as the malted wheat, which is typically a little bit of a sweeter note that brings for a whiskey. So why don't we move on? So we have now High Gold. This is another bourbon recipe. This is our high rye recipe. On the nose, immediately, you're going to get a lot more spice. This is the distinct difference between Cave Hill and High Gold. The objective, again, from the very beginning was how do we make bourbons that are distinct from one another and give you a different tasting experience. Again, on the palate, if you're a fan of a spicier bourbon with black pepper, currant, that even, I would say even kumun type of flavors, this is the bourbon for you. It's a fantastic high rye recipe, and I'm really excited you guys were able to taste it. Why don't we move on to the next one? We have now our bourbon that's finished in PX sherry cask. And on the nose and on the taste, you immediately pick up a lot of those kind of viney, sweet sherry flavors. And I think it's a wonderful complement, particularly as an after-dinner drink, if you care to taste something like this. Last but not least, we have our Kentucky Straight rye whiskey. The liquid is aged in toasted and charred barrels. And that toasting is a really, really special process where it takes roughly about 20 minutes of a slow burn, wood-burning fire that allows these barrels to essentially be kind of like a marshmallow. So you got that toasted exterior with a lot of flavor, a lot of sweetness inside. And when it comes in touch with the whiskey, over time, ebb and flow of seasons, you see a lot of the flavors from the wood having an impact on the whiskey. So this is an exceptionally unique rye whiskey. I'm very proud of it. And perfectly balanced between citrus and spice, something that you really don't get with a 95.5 rye. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and thanks again. Appreciate it that you guys are taking the time and tasting these products with me. Cheers.